I'm sitting here with Beryl Bear. She's a counselor for Muscatine First Nation, and she's going to share a little bit of her history of Muscatine and of her family as she knows it. Welcome, Beryl.
Hi.
So, can you tell me a little bit about your family, who your mom and dad are, your grandparents, and your great grandparents?
Oh boy. My mom and dad is Dolores Bear. She's still with us, thank God. My dad has passed away. That was William Gordon Bear, and his parents were Sarah and Ingram Bear. Sarah was a Falster, and my mom's mom and dad were Samuel Bear and Rhoda Bear. Brass. She was a brass from Pepicasis. So we have family in the Pepicasis area as well. Now I don't know who their parents are. I know it was Granny Sarah's was Henry and Agnes Falster, and Papa, oh my goodness, Henry Bear, and Bella Bear, I think is the, no, I could be mistaken. Bella Bear, I think, was his wife, because Henry was one of the oldest members on Muscatine, and he lived with us for a while. And his wife, I believe, passed away years before that. So he was close. I think he was around 105. Everybody kept saying he was 105 years old, but I don't know if he had a birth certificate. So he was very, very old when he passed on. And I don't know who the other ones are on my other side family. I should know that. But yeah, I know Rhoda. I don't know who my great-great-grandparents from the Pepicasis area is. We've got to get to know them. We've got to do a family reunion at some point.
Right. Yep. So, can you tell me who your siblings are?
My siblings are Daphne Bear and Rhonda Bear and William Bear, Bernie. Everybody knows him as. And I have one sibling that passed on when she was a young girl, and that was Laverne Bear. And she's been it's been a while since she's been gone, so yeah, we miss her dearly. Yeah.
Okay. So, who are your children?
My children is Samantha Elotmani. She's of course a bear. My son, he passed on in November this past year, and that was Adam Earl Bear. I miss him every day of my life.
So, you have any grandchildren?
I do. I have, Adam had two children, Dalton Ray Bear, and he is 15 years old. He's going to Carleton School. He's in a special program because Dalton is autistic and very, very talented young lad. And I have my other grandson. He's 6 years old, and that's Cash Bear. And he's just a wonderful joy, and he lives with us, and I look after him every day. And we get along very, very good. He's such a wonderful little boy. Yeah, I couldn't live without him.
That's wonderful. You see, you have a big, rich family. Like, it's very nice. It's very nice to have like a lot of children and grandchildren. So now, what do you remember as a child on Muscatine?
Oh boy, that seemed like 100 years ago. Well, growing up on the reserve, we lived up on the hill where I currently live now. We rebuilt the old homestead. So we used to have an old white house in that yard, which I can remember going back. It was an old white house from the house I live in currently right now. I remember growing up there, and it was a really old house. And I remember it being cold. I don't know why. It was probably not built that well. And growing up with mom and dad and my siblings and playing in the yard, and dad always had all kinds of trinkets. He was a heavy equipment operator and mechanic, so he always had something, and he welded lots, so he was always working on something in the yard, and us kids kind of fiddle-faddled around with everything that he was fixing. And I know he would get us under the grader when the grader was in the yard, and we'd be greasing nipples and everything like that. So he had us kind of doing a lot of that kind of stuff. Daffy learned actually how to run some of the equipment, so he would have her driving around in the backhoe, and I should have learned how to do that as well. And I know when we moved into the other house, that was around 68, we got a new house built in our same yard, and we moved in there. And it was only a little 2-bedroom house. There was 6 of us living in that house, in the 2-bedroom house. So Mom and Dad stayed in 1 bedroom, and the rest of us stayed in the other bedroom. So we had bunk beds and stuff like that, is what I can recall. I remember playing around in the yard. We had dogs, we had chickens and ducks and geese, and I'm very scared of birds. So I had a hard time playing in the yard because, well, they were penned up, but when they got loose, especially those geese, they were like big dogs, and I often run from them and whatever. So, and I remember playing in the ditches and making homemade rafts and pretending I was, out in the ocean or whatever on a raft, and we'd be playing in these ditches full of water. Oh my goodness, imagine how many leeches were in there. So we had fun though. We had fun growing up, and lots of times we would make forts in the bush, and our playground was in the bush, and so we made a lot of things homemade. Little tree houses and stuff like that in the ground. We'd make little tree houses, and not tree houses, I guess they'd be called ground houses. Yeah, so we did a lot, and we had neighbors across the road, and Gwen was one of my lifetime buddies, and so we'd often run across and play with each other, go out in the bush, and we'd have races in the bush with, we had to make our own fun. So we would dig holes, and we'd find as many frogs as we could, and we'd get Owen to count the frogs. We had exactly 52 frogs each, and some of the ones that were cut in half, mind you, he wouldn't count. So yeah, it was kind of funny when he said 52 each, and we was like, okay. Yeah, so we had a lot of fun that way, and then going down the road, visiting with neighbors, like a lot of visiting. Mom would take us down to Auntie Shirley and Donald's place. They lived near the curling rink at that time. And we go down there and we play outside in the sand everywhere, in the bushes, and yeah, we did quite a bit of visiting back then. Mm-hmm. And my grandmother and grandfather lived just not too far from us, so I went and visited quite a bit with Granny Sarah and Papa Ingram. So yeah, we had fun up there, a lot of us. People in that area, but we'd have to be home at night, mind you, that kind of thing by a certain time, and in bed, and Dad was very strict about us going to bed early. So if I got caught, being up and watching TV through the crack of I remember that, watching TV, they had a TV in the living room, and that was in the old house, mind you. And I'd be watching TV through the crack. He would catch me. I'd have to go sit out on the doorstep and not a light on, and every little noise in the dark outside, I would sit there. What's that? So, but I got used to it, So that really toughened me up. No. Yeah, that really toughened me up. So, yeah, it was. He made sure that I guess we listened. We. Once in a while we'd get a licking, and I probably deserved a lot of it, and it helped discipline us very well. I know today you can't, get a licking, kids can't get lickings and whatever, but, he taught us something. He taught us discipline and strict, and being, which I feel was respect in a way as well.
Yep.
And being a hard worker. He instilled that into us, being a hard worker. Whatever we have, we work hard for what we have. Yeah. Never take anything, for granted, that kind of stuff. So we make sure we earn what we work for.
That's right. It's a good quality to have. So back then, how did families help each other and treat each other?
Well, back then, a lot of people helped each other. If you needed something, like, say somebody was running low on food, people would help. They would say, do you need anything? Go and check in on things. I remember old Joe Smith. He used to go around on his team of horses and wagon, and he would go around checking people and just stopping in and visiting, making sure everybody was okay. And I remember even with mom and dad and stuff like that, sometimes we wouldn't have enough. And always made sure, like, somebody came by or they went and borrowed it and they'd always pay back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they had to depend on anything, because things would get kind of hard, especially in the wintertime.
Yeah.
And not a lot of work, Dad did work all the time for different places on the highways and, road construction and whatever. They would actually, I remember them telling us they would go even down into the States to work in, I think it was the Texas area, farming and stuff like that. And a group of guys from here would go.
Yeah.
So Harvey and Austin and all them. And yeah, so I remember those stories, telling them about what they would do and what they'd have to do in order to get food on the table, right? Yeah.
So were there any sporting events here when you were growing up?
Any sporting events? Yes. We had, what I remember is ball games, a lot of ball games, and curling, the old curling rink, 2-laner, and it was old, old mind you, and it wasn't artificial ice, it was homemade ice. A lot of times you could see the rock, when we shoot the rock down the ice, you could see water just spraying up. And it was hard to get the rock to the other end. We'd laugh. I remember Arthur Buck and Ernie and Frank and Randy and all these guys, Delbert, Donald, deceased Donald. Donald actually looked after the rink. And he'd always like fooling around, kidding with people and make them laugh and stuff like that. Elwin reminds me a lot of his dad. And there was a lot of sharing and having big, food and all that kind of stuff. Everybody sharing with one another, laughing.
Yeah.
Ball games. I remember we started a ball game when the old rec center. There was an old house down the hill. They converted into a rec center, and we hung around there. Sometimes there was things we shouldn't have been doing, but I remember that one time we were sitting there and Ivan and Herman walked in the door and said, "Hey, you girls, you're going to start a girls' ball team." Yeah, no, we're not. Yes, you are. So, okay, out into the old shrubbery patch there, the old, more gopher holes than anything. We made a little ball diamond there, and we started playing ball. And we were probably the bad news bears because we wouldn't listen. They were our coaches, and we wouldn't listen to them. And Ivan said, "Okay, Helen, you're the pitcher. Beryl, you're the back catcher." And oh my goodness, I had many bruises. And we had fun though. We'd go play around in PA, and they would take us to PA, but we were so unruly, we wouldn't listen. You'd have some girls sitting on the bench, putting makeup on, and they were going, "You're not supposed to be doing that. Get out here," and whatever. But we would. I remember Carla. She wouldn't listen to Ivan that one day, and she was putting makeup on. He goes, "Get out there! We're supposed to be fielded by now," and whatever. And I don't know how Herman and Ivan even lasted coaching us because, like I said, we wouldn't listen. They would often get frustrated with us, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun and all. I don't even know if we won a game. I think we did though. Yeah. Helen was a good, fast, strong pitcher. Half the time those girls couldn't even see her pitch coming. She was a good windmill pitcher, right? Yeah. And it would be fast and hard, yeah. Yeah, so we had fun.
Nice. So do you know if there was any medicine people in our community?
Medicine?
Yeah, medicine people.
No, I know Joe Smith's, I remember hearing, used to have, help, I think, do that. You'd probably have to ask, like James and Sharon and them, more of that. But I think they used the little remedies of different things, like for bee stings, the white, I don't even know what that white flower is. It's a white flower that they'd use for bee stings. I don't know what it's called. I think they use rat root for certain things with a lot of people, but who made it and who got it, I'm not sure who that would have been. I know a lot of people would use rat root and teas and stuff like that. I think my grandma Sarah used to drink a lot of tea and stuff, but she would never go picking stuff like that, right? That I can recall anyways.
Yeah.
And my grandma Rhoda passed away when I was very small. I think I was only 2 years old or 3 years old. So I barely remember her. I can just remember the frame of her. I can't remember her face too well.
Yeah.
And when I see pictures, then of course it comes back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and she might have used some of those medicinal plants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can't really recall anybody else using too much stuff. Like I know Dad and them, they'd go to the store and buy whatever, right? Aspirin or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't really grow up with that type of teaching. My family.
Yeah.
We missed out on a lot of that cultural, traditional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really get a lot, like we wouldn't, I don't think I got introduced to sage and sweetgrass until way later on in life. So I didn't even know what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't sweat. I know when Laverne got sick, we took her to a sweat in Pound Maker. And a lot of that was new to me, very new. And that would have been about 30, 40 years ago for me. And we went into a sweat and into a healing ceremony, and it was really new to me what they were doing and praying and all that kind of stuff. I thought the first time I went in the sweat, I was going to die. It was so hot, and I thought I was going to smother because I'm claustrophobic at the same time.
Yeah.
But by the time the second, third, and fourth round came around, it was getting better and better for me. But I was panicking on the first go round.
Yeah.
So, being in the dark and then that heat. Yeah, so it was new. It was new to all of us in the sweat for my family.
Mm.
Yeah. Powwows I remember coming to the powwows over here when they first started off in the sport. The rodeos were over here where the subdivision is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to those powwows. I don't remember if there was any powwows on the hill before, up on the south side, on the west side of the river.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall that, and I never recall going to a ceremony here in the community when I was small. So we often, I guess, referred back then that the powwow was kind of like a ceremonial thing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I remember growing up, basically. Yeah, a lot of that cultural stuff we didn't learn. That was pretty well stripped away from us, I guess, from our parents' generation and great grandparents' generation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we were more into the kind of the church. The church. I don't even know what years it was brought here. Ava and them probably know when the church first came here, Anglican Church. I think it was early in. I don't even know. That's one thing I should know. I know the Baptist church just came within the last 20 years here, so we have two churches, of course. And then ceremonial. I know certain families practice the ceremonies and the sweats, which we're welcome to go to. So I know there's a sweat up at Susie's Sweat. Then, of course, the Knights have a sweat out at the Sacred Grounds up on the north end of the reserve. From time to time. That was where I did another sweat with Danny Musqua, and they had something, that was years ago as well.
Mm.
And then, of course, the Munros had a sweat as well. And I think Teresa and Sam both have a sweat in their yard as well. Yeah, so I haven't gone to that one yet. So, yeah, so that's all I can remember traditionally. So I guess I have a lot to learn traditionally. In culture. So, and I'm still learning. Every day, which I'm using now, of course, sage and sweetgrass. I have to get a blade of sweetgrass from somewhere, but the sage is what I'm using now. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to get more and more into that, where I'm using it daily. So,
Do you find that it helps you?
yeah, it's kind of calms me down when I need to, when I'm getting too stressed on stuff or whatever. Because, of course, as a band counselor and then losing my son in November, it's really hard day to day. And So I use the sage to kind of help me, kind of help calm me. So yeah, it's helping. It's
That's
helping.
good. That's
Yeah.
good.
Praying, it helps me to learn how to pray.
Yep.
Before, I had a hard time praying because I always thought, is God listening to me, and stuff like that. So it's teaching me how to pray as well on a daily basis. Whereas before, the only time I'd pray is when I was in trouble.
Yeah, I bet you there used to be a lot of us. So, what do you remember about going to school on Muscadet? And when did you begin going to school off reserve?
Okay, so I went to kindergarten down at the old school. Now I know there was an old day school for my mom and dad and them. That was it's still here on reserve down by Chris Bear's on that Heritage Road.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a pretty good building. Wish we could restore that building to a museum. But there was an old. It was the old band office actually. They had a little wee building that was a band office. Then they had the school right next door. And actually, that old building became the store way years later. And we ended up going to that school in kindergarten. I remember going, I could hardly barely remember, but I remember going there every day, and we'd have these little cups with our names on them. We'd get Vico or hot chocolate or whatever, and then we get these brown biscuits, and they're just like dog biscuits. They were harder than hard. And I remember being in school, and I remember Carol, I think it was Carol Sanderson or Kingfisher, was our teacher. Yeah. And I remember they would also bring in this big old trailer for us to get x-rayed on the chest, put a big lead thing over our chest. And I think it was for TB.
Mm-hmm.
And they would do an x-ray to make, look at our lungs, I guess. And that was the way they tested, I think, to see if we had TB and stuff like that. So I was thinking, I don't know if that was very good for us, because I'm pretty sure that thing that they put on us, that it was like a big vest, had lead in it or something like that. It was really heavy.
Wow.
Yeah. So so basically, then we play out in the shrubbery yard there, more like, I don't remember a lot of playground equipment there. I don't think there was any. We had to make our own stuff to play with and stuff like that. I don't recall any playground equipment. And then we went to East Central. We got up on the bus every morning, and we got went out. Bill Crane was the bus driver, and Leslie Barrett after that was the bus driver for us as well. I went from grade 1 to 3 at East Central, and that was a little country school on Highway 302 north of us here from the reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of non-First Nation kids were there. They as soon as we came in, they were all just kind of eyeballing us and looking at us. So, of course, we had to, educate them, I guess. Sometimes it wasn't good. And we'd end up in detention and in the principal's office and stuff like that, especially for fighting. And then we went to Birch Hills from grade 4 on. Grade 4 to grade 10, I went to Birch Hills and to Carleton in PA. Carleton I didn't really care for because they're more or less a number in that school. Not saying, it's not a good school, but it was so huge. Like, you don't get to know everybody, so there's so many students, right?
Yeah.
And then went back to Birch Hills for a little bit. And then I thought I knew everything. And I conceived my first daughter, child. I got pregnant young. 17 I was, and married at 17. So I had my daughter, and I had to quit school. And then after I had my daughter, I started working for the band. And started off as a clerk to council, I believe. And then I went at receptionist for a number of years. And often when I worked for the band, I was put in other offices as well, because when somebody didn't show up, then you have to fill in for those spots.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go into finance, and I learned how to do some of the accounting and that kind of thing. So I learned quite a bit doing that. And then I ran for council in the mid-'80s, and I was young, very young, and I got in the first time I ran.
Yeah.
And I was in that position, I believe, boy, it seems like 100 years ago. It's hard to remember all this. And I was in for 2 terms there, which is 2 years apart, 2 years, I believe, the way that happened. And then I then got to the 90s there, and I know I was in council, but I moved to BC, so I had to quit council because I moved out to BC.
Mm-hmm.
So then they had to have a by-election for my position, I believe. So then I came back, and I ended up, boy, there's a little bit of a memory loss there. I worked with tribal council as an employment and training employment counselor, and stayed there for a number of years. I think it was about 5 or 6 years. And then I went to work with SIT as a job coach at Construction Careers for about 5 or 6 years. And then 2019, I ran for council again, and I got back in, and I've been there since. So and this term ends, 1 more year left in this term, 2-year term.
Nice.
So I've been working for the band for quite a number of years, going back, oh gosh, I think it was 83. That's when I started with the band.
Wow.
In different capacities, yeah. And I remember being at even the store. In between there, I was. They asked me to. I was started off as a gas pumper, and then they needed a manager for the store, so they asked me to be a manager of the store, and I kind of didn't wanna, but I said okay finally, because I remember Gordon Bear. Deceased Gordon Bear, he kept asking me, he said, come on, just do it. We need somebody to run the store. So I did. I stepped up, and it was kind of hard to run the store, because there wasn't a lot of money back then, and there wasn't a lot of product on the shelf, but we built it up. And then the whole taxation thing came into play. We went from 0 to 100 in about that whole taxation thing was really different, because that's when the taxes came off the cigarettes and gas.
Right.
And oh my goodness, we had lots of people coming out here. It was lined up the cars were lined up. We only had 1 or 2 pumps, and we had people lined up right to the back of the store for cigarettes, right? Because they got cigarettes way cheaper, right? So,
yeah.
Oh my goodness, we were just running like wild cats, trying to keep up to the game. Sometimes 3 times a day, I'd have to run into PA to get cigarettes from the Real Canadian Wholesale.
Yeah.
To bring out, because there were so many people. It was just, and the store made a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when that whole when the taxation came off the cigarettes and gas. Yeah, because there wasn't many First Nation businesses, right, in PA, gas bars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we had that had it out here, so everybody was driving out here. So we had people coming from all over the place, Pie Pot, Black Lake, Fond du Lac. They were buying not only cigarettes and gas, they were buying retail chips and pop and everything and like that. So yeah, it was real interesting trying to keep the products on the shelf, running back and forth to PA and buying all that stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Can you explain the history of Muscadet in your own words?
Okay. Well, Muscadet has always been, in my own words, Muscadet was always a really good place to be, a really caring place to be growing up, and we were good farmers, very good farmers, and a lot of our people worked. I remember we had a band farm here at one point in time for cattle, and farmers. We had a number of Indian farmers, our own First Nation farmers, in the community farming our lands. And Muscadet, I can recall, and we've always had a good farming agricultural reserve, and people sharing and caring about each other growing up. And then things started to change where the world got busy, I guess I could say. The world got busy, and you needed, I guess, a couple of people, in order to make things, put food on the table, and you wanted to have the extra necessity things or materialistic things, and both parents had to work and stuff like that. And then there wasn't a lot of time, I guess, to spend with family. But then things kind of really changed where, and not to be negative or anything, but things got changed where there wasn't a lot of things happening with families, and not families, but with children, spending with their parents, a lot of that quality time. And I know there was things going on back in the day.
Those latchkey kids, right?
Yeah. And then I remember, there was parties in our community and stuff back then, drinking, and stuff like that, but there wasn't a lot of drugs and whatever, what we see today.
Yeah.
So our community really has to focus, I guess, on some of the stuff we need to put in place to help our people that are struggling. And it's not only happening here, it's happening all over the world, right? In every urban center and every community and every little hamlet. So we really have to focus together to help each other, right? And we should be helping each other. We used to help each other. We should be helping each other today.
Right.
And helping our families.
Right, yeah. So, your last question here. What important message do you want to share with our future generations about education? Now, keep in mind, your great-grandkids, your kids are all going to see this, right? Their great-grandkids, because it's going to be on video and it's been kept forever. So.
Well, for a future message, I guess is what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy. How do I put that? I think we really have to start caring about each other and helping each other, but also education is so important. Finish your education and continue to, after even getting your grade 12, what you want to do, your university, going to college, and then working, getting into a job that you like. Not a job because you have to do a job, but something that you really want to do for the rest of your years as a career. And then showing your children how to work hard. I remember that was from Dad, is working hard for what you have, and respect each other. And I believe that we can make this community thrive again, and we just have to make sure our kids go to school every day, and we support them 100%. And just don't give up, and just keep going day after day, year after year, and support our children and our grandchildren, right? And always put those supports in place for our youth. Our youth are very important. And our elders, connecting the elders to the youth, because they're the knowledge keepers, and they can teach our youth, to be really strong individuals, and our families as well.
I think that's where we need to get that connectedness back.
Yes,
with
definitely.
everyone. 'Cause
Definitely, the connectedness is very important to bring everybody back together again, and to, like I said, care for each other again. Show that we love each other and we want to be there for each other.
You got any last words?
I just want to thank you for the interview. I want to thank Muscatine for all what they have given me, the knowledge that they've shared with me, and allowed me to be part of the, working for Muscatine for all these years. I cherished every moment, and I've learned so much working here. And I always will hold Muscatine with the highest regard because I believe we're the best.
Thank you so much, Beryl.
You're welcome. Thank you.